smoke plums, gunshots echo, and fear grips the streets of Sweda, a province in southern Syria, which is now reeling under a fresh wave of violence between two historically rooted communities, the Druze and the Bedouins. What began as a minor altercation at a local checkpoint on July 13th quickly spiraled into a full-blown tribal war. A Bedouin tribesman reportedly assaulted a Druze civilian, and within hours, the region descended into chaos, marked by retaliatory kidnappings, heavy gunfire, and the return of armed militias. More than 300 lives have been lost in less than a week. And even as the Syrian government rushed to broker a ceasefire, it barely lasted. The fire had already spread. But who exactly are the Bedouins and Druze? Why is their rivalry so deep-rooted? And why is this old fault line tearing Syria apart once again? The Bedouins are an ancient nomadic people whose identity is tightly woven into the deserts of the Middle East and North Africa. Their name itself is derived from the Arabic word Badawi, meaning desert dweller, reflects a way of life centered around livestock herding, seasonal migration, and tribal alliances. Before the outbreak of the civil war, Syria's Bedouin population was estimated at over 1 million. Though traditionally sidelined from mainstream political power, the Bedouins have always held sway over movement, commerce, and land, key assets in a country like Syria. In contrast, the Druze are a tight-knit religious minority, rooted in a distinct offshoot of Islam. Known for their secretive religious customs, strong communal bonds, and resilience, the Druze community established a firm foothold in southern Syria during the 17th and 18th centuries. Their base today lies primarily in Sweda, where they've built a reputation for autonomy and defiance, traits that have at times put them at odds with various regimes, from the Ottomans to the Assads. The relationship between the Druze and Bedouins in southern Syria has always been complex, a tapestry of mutual cooperation, cultural exchange, and periodic violence. For centuries, the two communities were deeply intertwined. Bedouin tribes provided essential services, helping Druze families herd livestock, trade salt, and move goods across regions. In return, the Druze offered access to water, agricultural land, and stable markets. Their cultural influences ran deep. Some traditional Druze songs and dance forms were borrowed directly from Bedouin styles. Arabian horses were often gifted by Bedouins to respected Druze leaders, symbols of trust and alliance. But peace was never permanent. The first major rupture came in the 1950s, when Syrian President Adib Shishakli launched a crackdown on the Druze, accusing them of disloyalty. In a controversial move, Shishakli encouraged Bedouin tribes to raid Druze villages, triggering a wave of looting, destruction, and displacement. Decades later, in the year 2000, a fatal land dispute erupted when a Bedouin man killed a Druze civilian. Protests followed, and the government's harsh crackdown, which left several Druze dead, was widely perceived as tacit support for the Bedouin side. Trust had been broken, and old scars began to resurface. Ironically, the two communities also stood shoulder to shoulder in times of resistance. During the Great Syrian Revolt in the 1920s, both fought against the French colonial forces. Together they won pivotal battles, moments still remembered with pride across southern Syria. But those shared victories weren't enough to prevent the return of rivalry. Over time, changing political alliances, land disputes, and cycles of vengeance chipped away at whatever unity once existed. The latest round of violence began with a simple checkpoint, a makeshift post where a Druze vegetable vendor was reportedly harassed by a Bedouin tribesman. In the days that followed, both communities mobilized their militias. The confrontations grew fiercer. Fuel was added to the fire by Syria's new US-backed interim government, which ordered the disbandment of all regional militias, including the powerful Druze defense forces. While many Druze groups resisted the order, some Bedouin factions sided with the government, hoping for greater influence in the region. When Syrian military forces entered Sweda to enforce the ceasefire, many in the Druze community saw it as yet another betrayal, a calculated effort to weaken them while empowering their historical rivals. Reports of looting, abuse, and even summary executions by government-backed forces have only intensified the backlash. As the conflict raged on, international actors began to take notice, most notably Israel, which shares close cultural and familial ties with the Druze community, both within its borders and beyond. In a bold move, the Israeli military launched airstrikes on Syrian government positions near the border. The message was clear: harm the Druze, and we will respond. This external involvement has raised the stakes even further, transforming a local tribal dispute into a potential regional flashpoint. The smoke may clear, the gunfire may stop for now, but the rivalry between the Druze and Bedouins runs deep, stretching across generations. In the deserts of Syria, old rivalries have showed no signs of dying. They only wait for the next checkpoint, the next insult, the next spark. And as we've seen in Sweda, all it takes is one.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to Mirror Now.